In one main story dominating the news tonight, the northeast of Japan has been swamped by a major tsunami following the biggest earthquake in its history. At least 142 people are reported dead, but that figure appears very conservative. The real number looks likely to be many, many more. For example, police say hundreds of bodies have been found drowned in the city of Sendai, the capital of the worst-hit region. The 8.9 magnitude quake off the eastern coast unleashed 10-metre-high waves, which reached miles inland, causing huge damage. Meanwhile, there are worrying reports of a radiation leak at the Fukushima nuclear power plant in the northeast of Japan. An emergency situation has been declared at the facility after its cooling system failed. Authorities are saying the next few hours will be crucial there in trying to sort out the problem. That's one angle we're looking closely at tonight. And as we get the reports and the latest details through from our correspondents and newswires, we'll update you. Well, just after the quake hit, we had a chance to speak to an eyewitness who was in the capital, Tokyo.
I was working at home and suddenly felt slight shocks. I didn't know what to do, sit at home or leave. At that moment, I saw a message on the screen of my TV. It said that in 20 seconds there would be an earthquake. I jumped up and left. It was shaking. I heard a crack. Posts and fences were cracking. I live in a private district of the city. There weren't many people, just elderly ones with cats and young parents with children. Yesterday, my neighbor's daughter had left for Miyagi, where the quake happened. We tried to call her, but mobile connection was lost. Although the epicenter was far away from Tokyo, I felt like I was in a ship while it rocked. It seemed like everything around me would crash. It was happening all day. Every time I returned home, it started again.
Well, Japan has declared, as I mentioned just now, a nuclear power emergency after the cooling system failed in a plant at Fukushima following that earthquake in the northeast. We spoke to Valery Petrosyan earlier. He's a UN expert about chemical safety. He says there is reason for major concern right now.
The problem is actually very serious because we are talking about the possible destructions of the chemical plants and also the atomic power stations. And as to the chemical plant, evidently we are having in mind the possible contamination both of the air and the land with the toxic chemicals, which might going to the agricultural products. And as to the nuclear power stations, I have to say that the Japanese nation became very sensitive to the problem of the radioactive pollution of the country after going back to 1945, when two first American atomic bombs have been exploded over Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Well, experts are warning that radiation levels are rising at the Fukushima nuclear plant and that there is a high risk of a leak if the situation isn't resolved in the next few hours. Dr. Robert Jacobs is a professor of nuclear history and culture at the Hiroshima Peace Institute. He says nuclear power stations are programmed to shut down during major quakes.
Has apparently happened in one of the Fukushima plants. There should be other cooling systems that then kick in. So in theory, this is the kind of safety procedures that will avert any kind of event, any kind of nuclear event. But of course, one system can fail, and other systems can fail as well. So what happens? What the primary danger is that these reactors have shut down, so they're no longer generating electricity, but the cores remain very, very hot, and so those cores need to be cooled. And if the cooling systems fail, then the temperature of the cores can rise, and that can lead to a variety of different sorts of incidents in which radiation may be released into the environment. These plants are triggered to shut down when earthquakes are detected over a certain level. So the automatic and quick shutdown of the plants is the first safety step. The second safety step is the redundancy of procedures such as cooling procedures, so that if there is a failure, there will be a secondary system that will kick in, so that no system is relied on alone.
So to recap the death toll, 142 deaths officially reported in Japan, but as I've been saying, that is expected to rise substantially, maybe. One Japanese news agency suggests there are literally tens of thousands unaccounted for tonight. Worst hit is the northeastern city of Sendai. Police there say almost every house has been damaged or destroyed. The 8.9 earthquake off the Japanese coast is in fact the 6th largest ever recorded in the world. Experts say it's around 8,000 times bigger than the quake which devastated the New Zealand city of Christchurch last month. It sent a 10-metre wall of water surging through Japan as a result, sweeping people, buildings and cars in its path. A state of emergency has been declared at a nuclear power plant in the northeast of Japan after its cooling system failed. In a statement the Japan Atomic Industry Forum released, it asked for prompt action. In total, the country has got 55 reactors, providing about one-third of the nation's electricity. We're going to talk to a nuclear campaigner in a minute about what she thinks about that. Under Japanese law, an emergency must be declared if a cooling system fails, and that's what reportedly has happened here. We're also hearing tonight, in the last hour or two, there's reportedly been a risk of a radiation leak there. Officials certainly saying that radiation levels are rising. The population within a 2-kilometre band circle around that nuclear plant, there are 2 of them in fact on site, have been told to evacuate, to leave, and we're also hearing that there's a second ring of people. Certainly earlier on, authorities were saying this a few hours ago, they've been told to stay inside. More details coming through on this. The authorities also saying that the next few hours are crucial. You're also seeing pictures there at an oil and maybe gas refinery of the horrendous fires that have been witnessed today along the coast and in Greater Japan as well. A devastating day for the country. Well, Russia's Far East has been braced for any tsunamis, with people going to higher ground, but the worst danger appears to have passed. Let's talk about that side of the story. Catch up with RT's Igor Puskanov now. Igor, hi again. The Russian territory that lies, of course, closest to the epicentre of today's quake, the Kuril Islands. How have people been faring there? What reports have been coming back?
Well, the Kuril Islands are right there in the neighborhood, just several miles north of Japan, and previously one of these islands was hit by a 3-meter high tsunami. That's around the height of a 1-story building. Thankfully, no one was killed or injured in that incident, and local infrastructure was not damaged as well, but the authorities did manage to evacuate around 11,000 people to higher ground in the entire region, and also declared a state of emergency. Now, local emergency services and rescuers are all on high alert, getting ready for any possible scenario to develop, and I think that is the similar situation in the entire northern Pacific region.
And is there any remaining risk now to Russia's eastern mainland, or has that danger passed?
Earlier on Friday, there were reports of more possible tsunamis hitting the Russian coastline and the Kuril Islands. Now these risks have declined, but there is still a possibility of aftershocks. So President Dmitry Medvedev has ordered all local emergency services and rescue services to be ready for any type of a situation. Dmitry Medvedev has also ordered the Emergencies Ministry to get ready to help Japan in this horrific disaster.
Of course, we're ready to help our neighbors in overcoming the effects of this severe earthquake. A state of emergency has also been declared on our soil, on the Kuril Islands, in the Sakhalin region, where all necessary measures must also be taken to prevent damage and loss of life. The tsunami has already reached our shores, and we must all be consolidated at this time. I'm now ordering the Emergencies Minister to present a plan of assistance to Japan.
The Emergencies Ministry has already announced that it's prepared 6 jets currently on standby, which are ready to transport doctors, rescuers, medical equipment, even a mobile hospital to help Japan. All is needed at the moment is an official request from Japanese authorities.
OK, Igor Puskanov, thanks for bringing us up to date there. Unfortunately, more news coming through. We're hearing from Japanese media, maybe I think the NHK news channel, but certainly the Japanese media report coming through now that the death toll is now confirmed at least 350 souls tonight. But unfortunately, judging by the pictures we've seen and those reports we heard coming through from the beach near that coastal town where the epicentre of the quake was, it could be that will go up substantially. Also reports earlier on today of a train that was unaccounted for. We haven't heard any more about that. And also a boat with 100 people on board that had been washed out to sea in that extremely big wave. As I say, as soon as we get more about it, we'll let you know. Well, we've heard about the Russian angle there, the Kuril Islands, the eastern coast of Russia, how that was affected. Thankfully, not too bad. Countries across the Pacific area, though, including South America, the US and Indonesia, were put on alert for any tsunamis heading their way. But while the first waves have now reached America's mainland, any major threat there appears to have passed as well. Again, a little bit of brightness in all the disaster today. Our US correspondent Gani Chichikhan has the latest from the US.
The tsunami waves have hit the U.S. mainland, the U.S. West Coast, specifically the states of Oregon, California, and Washington have been on high alert since early Friday morning. But the tsunami there did not cause any serious damage. Those were just strong waves, 6 feet high on average. That's the height of a tall person. Evacuations, nevertheless, had been earlier ordered in parts of Washington and Oregon. Scientists acknowledged they overstated the threat but defended their actions, saying they took the proper steps and learned the lessons of the 2004 Indonesian tsunami that killed thousands of people who didn't get enough warning. The fears of tsunami causing any serious damage in the U.S. mainland really diminished after the waves hit the islands of Hawaii this morning. Waves of about 6 feet again were recorded there. Again, there have been no reports of destruction there in Hawaii. Roadways and beaches were empty as the tsunami struck the state, which had hours to prepare. Sirens sounded throughout the night, and residents in coastal areas were sent to refuge areas at community centers and schools, while tourists were moved to higher floors of hotels. Those are the reports that we're getting, and people awaited, they're also saying people waited in long lines, stocking up on gas, bottled water, canned food, and generators, but none of this was needed because the waves have lost their destructive power along the way from the epicenter of the earthquake, which of course was off the coast of Japan. But still, the tsunami warning is in place in the United States and the West Coast, although we have seen some live pictures from California, and it looks quite calm there, the coast there. We're also getting reports from Alaska, where a dozen small communities were on alert, but again, there were no reports of damage from a wave just over 5 feet. In the state of Washington, the same thing. Now, experts say the tsunami is unlikely to cause damage in the U.S., but they also say the aftershocks cannot be underestimated, so everyone is still on alert here.
Latest from RT's Gani Chichikhan there. Well, as we've been reporting, a nuclear power emergency has been declared after the cooling system failed at a plant at Fukushima following the earthquake. The latest we're getting from officials, they're saying, again via a news agency, that, quote, there is no risk to the environment or humans from the radioactive vapour. So I guess that may mean it's contained. Don't know. We'll be trying to find out more about that for you. They have been saying, though, all night that the next couple of hours are crucial because of the problem with the build-up of pressure there after one of the cooling generators broke down, didn't work properly.